Welcome to the Business Banter Podcast, episode number 3. I'm Mark Plymale, joined as always with Spencer Johnson, and in this episode, we'll be discussing if credit cards are actually worth using. On both of our main YouTube channels, we talk about the benefits of credit cards, but there are a lot of negatives that we feel need to be addressed. Also, towards the end of today's episode, we'll be answering some questions from Diamond Status members from our Discord server, the Credit Community, which, by the way, if you haven't already joined over there, be sure to do so real quick using the link that we have in the description of this video if you're watching on YouTube.
Agreed. It'll always be there, people, but
Always.
I'm really excited for this episode, to be honest.
Me too. We've talked about this stuff a lot, not doing a podcast, but credit cards are amazing, right? I mean, that's what we do in our channels. We're talking about credit cards and the perks and benefits and how people can really basically profit from them. But there is that big negative side to them that we definitely feel needs to be addressed.
Yep, I agree. I think it's pretty easy for us in our videos to make quick mention of all the caveats you need to about credit cards, but we just physically cannot do it, all the time. And we can't go into enough depth in each video. But, obviously there is a very negative side to the credit card game if you don't use them responsibly. So I think it's time that we address it here since we have more time to be able to do so. And yeah, it's a big problem, and it gets a little bit less airtime on YouTube, except for probably Dave Ramsey. So
yeah, he's the biggest guy who's against them. And I'm not saying that I'm against them. I am for them for the right person. I want to bring up this data. I actually made a video on this back in February, but the data is still relatively the same. It hasn't changed much, which is bad. So let's see. Let me pull it up. Right now, the total cumulative balance of debt on credit cards in America is $986 billion. It breaks down to about an average of over $7,000 per individual who has a credit card. So that's debt. And obviously the interest rates on credit cards are like 25 to 30%. So even carrying a $7,000 balance, your interest payment is really high. And even at that range, it's extremely hard to get yourself out of credit card debt. You have to stop spending, obviously, on them, but you have to earn enough to pay off not only the balance, but also that interest that's accruing. So it's a major problem. It's a bigger problem than a lot of people might realize.
Yeah, and it's such a bad spiral too. Like, it's a vicious spiral is what I like to call it, because even if you've used credit cards responsibly for most of your life, if at one point in time you don't make the payments on your cards and you end up with a massive credit card bill that you haven't paid, I mean, that could ruin you financially for a while. But yeah, it's definitely a dangerous thing.
Right. Yeah. All the perks and benefits, the points, all of those don't outweigh any interest that you would pay. Like if you go through an entire year and you don't pay any interest, and let's say you make, we'll just call it cash back, you make $800 cash back. You get that much back from all of your credit card spend. But in the next year, you get yourself into a little bit of credit card debt and you end up paying interest. All that interest that you're paying just ate back into that $800 of profit that you made. So it's really quickly how that can happen. It took you an entire year just to get that $800 cash back. But in a month or two of carrying a substantial balance, those interest payments can be $200-$300. So it can basically wipe out all that net positive that you just had.
Yeah, that's the same exact thing I talk about too when it comes to people that, maybe on the other side of the spectrum. Like right now, we're maybe talking about people that don't use their credit cards responsibly. But then whenever you talk about the people that are in our channels on a daily basis that are super passionate about credit cards, I still see people in there that think they're responsible, but are applying for welcome bonuses that they can't actually spend towards because they just want the points. And they don't realize that they're overspending to get the welcome bonuses. And whenever you do that, you're again just wiping away all the benefits that the card gives you.
100%. And that goes back to the question of, does using credit cards make you overspend? And I personally think the answer is yes. And that's weird for me to say because obviously I'm a big credit card user, but I do notice that when I make a bigger purchase, I feel better about it knowing for a fact that I'm going to get some cash back or some points that I can redeem in a way that I get value back from that purchase. But at the end of the day, I do think that I spend a little bit more with them. I think if I was spending only with a debit card or cash, I would spend a little bit less, which is kind of eye-opening. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I think it's definitely a person dependent thing, but even in saying that, I can see where you're coming from. I personally like to think of myself as only ever spending on them responsibly.
Mm-hmm.
But then again, if I am in a welcome bonus period and I'm like, well, I need to hit this, $4,000 to spend in 3 months. If I'm like on the edge of I might hit this naturally, I might not. More times than not, I'm going to be more comfortable with just spending money that I might not have in cash form. And I think even like, well, I know Dave Ramsey had, that's part of his big thing is that he wants, don't they do like cash envelopes? I don't know what they call them, but like where you only have a certain amount of cash you can spend every month. That might be a little extreme, but
you put that cash envelope like for each individual category, like your groceries, you put your cash in at the beginning of the month and that's all you can spend on groceries or, your rent or whatever, any category. Yeah. Kind of weird.
Yeah, it's a little bit extreme, but I think even like Daniel Braun made a video a while back about how he quit, quote unquote, quit credit cards for 30 days.
I remember that
only used cash. And I imagine that I think he came to the conclusion that he kind of spent the same either way, which maybe is that whole your mileage may vary thing. But I think if a lot of people did that, they'd realize that they're spending a little bit too much using a credit card than they would otherwise.
Yeah, I would actually kind of like to do that myself because I'm just thinking I feel like I would spend more because I use credit cards. I feel like I do, but I don't actually know. I haven't just spent with a debit card or just cash in so long. I mean, it's seriously been since back when I was in debt. But I will say that I think that if you are in debt, like any type of debt, you shouldn't be using credit cards. That's my stance on it. I think that you get into credit cards once you're out of debt. So I am kind of with Dave Ramsey in that way. But I'm not, hardcore about it. Like if you have a little bit of like, if you have a car loan, it's at 3% and you want to start using credit cards, it's not the end of the world, but I would personally pay it off first and then start using the credit cards.
Yeah. I mean, that's fair. I guess my question to you too is just like, how do you balance like having that mindset on things and also being a like credit card related YouTube channel or having a credit card related YouTube channel? Because, for me personally, I feel like I'm an advocate for credit cards because all my videos are about how to use them responsibly, how to make money from them. But then again, you're not going to be able to sit there and judge whether each person should actually be getting a credit card. So I guess how do you balance that advice you give with also having that opinion?
I try to make sure that I sprinkle in those phrases like really you should make sure that you have paid off all of your other debts before you get into stuff like this. I've made multiple videos about that in the past, and right now I'm on this podcast and talking about that. And in my video where I talked about the credit card debt crisis, I explained that stance as well. I try to make sure that people do understand the way, like what I talk about in my videos is how I live my life. Like any advice that I'm giving or any tips or whatnot is something that I have done and implemented in my life and that has worked. I'm never really just making things up or just assuming things would work, at least in the videos that I've made to this point. So I just try to make sure that people understand that. I don't think that, there's kind of that.
Yeah. I'm trying to think too, back to the number that you said about how the average, I guess, American, if you were to take
like $7,000.
Yeah. That's a pretty insane statistic.
That's a lot. When you think about the average income, it's like most Americans don't make that much money. They really just don't. The average income is like $40,000. $7,000 in credit card debt would take months to get out of that. And again, with the interest compiled on, it's brutal. That's a lot of debt.
Yeah. I mean, if you're paying, 30% APY, I just a rough calculation of like 30%, that'd be like $2,100, I guess, something like that.
Yeah, it's a lot. And it's broken down in month. And if you're still spending on your card and you're adding to the balance, or if you open up another one, I mean, it's a spiraling issue.
Yeah. Do you know any, like, obviously not doxing people, but do you have people in your life that are stuck in credit card debt and are trying to get out of it, or maybe not?
None that aren't that bad. I have a couple friends who don't even use credit cards. They're strictly cash only. And I've talked to them a lot and they even watch my videos and they're just like, I don't really care. It just doesn't appeal to me The cash is so easy. What they like about cash, and what I will say does kind of sound nice, is once you spend it, you're done. That's
Yeah.
it. You already spent it. Whereas when you spend on a credit card, you do have to keep that in the back of your mind. You do have to go in and make a payment on that card later on.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like one extra step. Whereas when you swipe your debit card, that's it. Money's gone out of the account. With the credit card, you swipe the card. You do have to make that payment, which is another step, and you could delay it. And it's just one more thing to think about.
Yeah. I think there's a balance between, or there's kind of two sides to the coin of people in general, which I've always referred to this in my videos as being either team cashback or team travel. But you could also take it further and say team credit card versus cash. Is the sense that the people that are on the cashback or the just straight cash side of the coin just want simplicity. And I think the team travel side or the team credit card side are people who are willing to just put in the time to research stuff like that to get more upside value. But again, there is that middle ground where there are people that get the credit cards because they either have to or they just want that extra money, but they don't actually know how to handle them. And I think that's the biggest contributor to that number, because obviously we're sitting here, me and you don't have $7,000 worth of credit card debt. Everybody on YouTube, hopefully that we talk to, don't have that kind of debt.
Yeah.
So it's like that has to be coming from somewhere, and it's probably from a lot of people with pretty high balances that just keep stacking every year compared to, just normal folks. But
yeah, I watch a lot of the Dave Ramsey videos. Keep bringing them up, I'll stop, but kind of relevant to this topic.
Yeah.
And they call in and they've got $40,000 in credit card debt. Like, how do you even get there? But what a lot of people, this actually kind of goes back to what we were talking about in our first episode with the Roth IRA. A lot of people are super optimistic about their own futures. They really think that they're going to make a lot of money. They know for a fact it's going to happen. They don't know exactly how, but the camera just did it again.
I know, I saw that.
That is so annoying. Okay, sorry. Yeah, people are super optimistic about their futures, and they just know for certain they're going to make enough money to pay off those debts that they've accrued. But then reality sets in and it doesn't happen, and they continue to make the same wage, and they continue to outspend, and that's where the biggest issue is. People are too optimistic, and they aren't realistic about how much they're actually spending.
Yeah. Yeah, a lot of people like to just have a hands-off approach to finance, but in a bad way. For me, I'm like, let's set up everything passive, but in a way where I'm like, okay, I'm auto-paying my statement balances every month. I'm not worried about it. Even I think about this too. Like, even the people that think they know how they're using credit cards and they're setting up auto pay for their minimum balances and they're like, oh, I'm good. I feel like that's such a dangerous thing too. And I know that, people I've said this before, but I feel like the minimum payment verbiage is kind of dangerous. And I think it's implemented by credit card issuers for a reason. People are like, well, people aren't dumb. They know that they're not supposed to just pay that. I'm like, no, I think they do that on purpose, because a lot of people probably just pay that and never even look at their card balances until like a year later. And they're like, oh my God, I have so much credit card debt. So I don't know.
That's like most of those, like all the financial words and terms and phrases, they try to make it more confusing than it really is. And that's like where I kind of feel like our job is to simplify things and help people understand how to really navigate that stuff and make it simpler and make it easy and actually profit from it. And the biggest way to profit from it is just by not paying any interest and not overspending. Even if you're only earning 1% cash back on all of your purchases, as long as you're not paying interest and as long as you're not overspending, you are in a way doing well. You're accomplishing your goal by using credit cards, which is getting a little bit of extra value in the form of basically a rebate, a little bit back from the money that you had to spend anyways.
Yeah. And of course, the ultimate goal of using credit related products is to build your credit score. I think that's true. We're so far on the side of like, we got to maximize every dollar we spend, when in reality, I think a lot of people, will get credit cards for the sole reason to build their credit score, and they don't care about the earnings, which I think is a perfect spot to be in as well if you're using them responsibly. But yeah, I've seen many different ways that people overspend on credit cards or even for credit cards. And I don't know what your take is on this, but one topic of discussion that I kind of bring up on my channel a lot, I feel like, is the fact that I think way too many people overspend to get the higher tier credit cards, like with like really high annual fees, because they either look cool or they're a status symbol or they think they should have them even though they can't justify them. So I guess that's one reason that I kind of made a video this past week about how to basically maximize the value from your platinum card, because I worry that a lot of people do have it and are not using it correctly. And I mean, I guess everybody watching this would probably know what the platinum card is, even if you're not into credit cards. But that is a massive status symbol, I think, that people get. And if to me, it's like the parents I worry for that just get it because they know it looks cool or they think they're supposed to have it, when in reality they're just getting 1x back on everything and paying $700 a year for nothing. So,
yep.
What's your take?
Those are the people. I agree. I mean, people definitely get cards that they don't necessarily need. They'll get a card that they're not going to get max value from, which from our eyes as, analysts on this stuff, we're looking at it and trying to analyze it and trying to maximize. It seems silly and frivolous. I will say from the other side of it, some people are okay with stuff like that. They're okay to overspend for a status symbol. Think about, I'm not into stuff like this. You might be, but like watches are a huge thing that I think a lot of men waste money on. I mean, I have an Apple Watch. It's like 5 years old and it works and it tells the time and I like it. But I would never spend $10,000 on a Rolex, right? It's a status symbol. It looks nice. It looks cool. People might start a conversation, but at the end of the day, it is just a watch. It doesn't really do anything else. It holds its value so you could resell and there's stuff like that. But I guess what I'm saying is people who spend on a platinum card or get the platinum card just to have it as a status symbol, I think that's okay, but just understand that you are losing value and potentially losing money from doing that.
Yeah, it definitely depends on the income level of the person having the card. Because I've seen, especially even like in our credit community Discord we've talked about already, I've seen multiple like new people to credit join, and their first thing they want to do is get the platinum card. And I'm like, dude,
all the time.
And they're like 18, which granted, I probably was like that whenever I was 18. I'm not judging people for that. But once you start to understand what credit cards are actually used for, you realize how bad of an idea that is.
It's a status symbol. It doesn't, if you're not, using it and you're not using all the credits and you're not traveling a lot and you're not spending a lot of money on it in the 5X categories, then you aren't getting that much value. You would probably, if you took all that spend and put it on the Freedom Flex, you'd get the same amount of value, if not more.
Yeah. Right.
But again, it's coming from that side of it is a status symbol. It could start a conversation with someone, I don't know, maybe. And it's something that might make the cardholder feel good. They feel like they're successful, and it could help them in another way. Like someone who would buy a Rolex, I think they would feel very successful owning a status symbol watch. Whereas maybe having a platinum card in your wallet would help that card holder feel like they're successful and can help their mental state.
Yeah.
That might sound stupid or silly to us, but if it helps someone else feel good, then I guess I'm all for it, as long as you're not spending irresponsibly on the card. It's expensive, but you can get pretty good value. Like your video, I mean, you can get thousands of dollars back just by using credits.
Right. Yeah. It's also just not, I mean, I guess in the grand scheme of things, there's one aspect of paying for a platinum card to help you feel a little bit more luxurious compared to a like $100,000 car or something. So
yeah,
I guess there are levels to this, but I don't know. I definitely I feel like I'm really cognizant of the fact that people need to really start examining their like what they actually will get value from before getting a card. And this is speaking on the side of people that are very enthusiastic about the game. Obviously, going back to our conversation earlier, I think we both agree that if you're in a position where you cannot immediately pay off whatever purchase you put on a credit card, you should not get it. And that's why we always, like, my simple caveat for a lot of these kinds of videos that I make about credit cards is, if you're not going to use a credit card like a debit card, don't get it. And that's really what it is. So in a way, we are kind of like, me and you, or people that are really responsible, are somewhat approaching it as like Dave Ramsey would, in a sense that like you have to have the money right away to pay it, but people don't act like that.
And that's where the issue comes from. It's that's the main issue. When you are getting a card for a status symbol, it is a tool that actually entices you to spend more money.
Yep.
So that's not smart.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, I'm looking at it from both sides. I'm looking at it from someone who is super analytical about it, and I would not get a card that I know for a fact I'm going to get not enough value from. But I'm also trying to put my feet in the shoes of that 19-year-old who wants it, or even like a 28-year-old who wants it. 28-year-old has a good job. They don't travel much, but they're making good money. They're out of debt and they're building up their net worth, and they want to get the platinum card because they fly Delta twice a year and they want to go to the Sky Club, and I don't know, they want some points back. But I'd see the side of it that's not that big of a deal. There are worse things you could be doing with your money than spending $695 on a credit card.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. On a similar topic of the debt crisis with credit cards, I wonder how much of that, that's just me thinking out loud, but I wonder how much of that is contributed to by people who get credit cards with 0% intro APR periods. Again, going back to your thought of they assume that after that 12-month period or whatever, they're going to have the money they need to pay off cards, and then they don't, and then they end up paying interest for years. I wonder how much of that contributes to it.
I can look through that article really quick. I've got it pulled up. I don't know if they have statistics that deep down.
They might not. I guess I can still talk about it from my perspective too, if you're searching through this, because I don't know. I know I've seen a lot of people either through comments or even like friends of mine that think that the 0% intro APR periods are like genius, and you can take it to a level where you're like almost just churning intro bonuses for that specific purpose, and you basically are just bouncing balances across different cards and never actually paying interest on it.
But you're never paying it off. I mean, but
you're never paying it off. I think that's super dangerous, obviously. Dangerous. And you're also, if you think about it too, if that balance, say it's like $10,000, which would be a lot, but still, that's like just above average. If that's what that balance is, you still have to pay a balance transfer fee every time you do that. Granted, it's once a year maybe, but still, it's just like such a slippery.
It still adds up. That's dumb. I don't think that's smart. Here, I did find this. So it says the average APR for new credit cards is 24%. So that might be a couple of those cards being down at 0, and then a lot of them being at like 29. So skewing it downward just slightly. But the average APR for all accounts that are accruing interest right now, 21%. So off of that, almost $1 trillion on average, 21% interest APR on $1 trillion balance.
Yeah, $210 billion a year on average that people are paying in interest.
It looks like insane. So residents in Connecticut, they actually have the most, and they're on average carrying $9,400 of credit card debt. New York next, then New Jersey, Rhode Island, Texas. Texas sitting there, number 5th.
Oh, yeah.
That's what we do. Credit card debt in Texas.
I
will say this is a funny stat. Kentucky credit card holders in Connecticut have the highest average credit card debt of any state, according to Lineage data, while those in Kentucky have the lowest.
Oh, wow.
Those in Kentucky have the lowest. It's still probably like $6,000 or more, but that is kind of interesting.
That's very interesting.
I'm contributing to 0% of that, and you're skewing Texas down a little bit too.
Apparently, yeah. I guess, yeah. I don't know. There's a whole nother discussion of what parts of these states are paying interest versus not, but we won't get into it.
And that's actually data that I pulled up in my video from back in February on the credit card debt crisis. Some person commented, they mentioned, well, like cost of living in somewhere like Connecticut is substantially higher than somewhere like Kentucky. So like think about like $9,000 credit card debt in Connecticut might not be as much as $6,000 of credit card debt in Kentucky. And it was like, that's fair. That kind of makes sense. It's still too much debt and it still doesn't matter. But thinking about like it in terms of that, cost of living in your location does matter.
Yeah.
A good bit.
That's fair. I'm surprised California wasn't higher up than like Texas though. Interesting.
Yeah. Let's see where they were. They were they're not even in the top 10.
Wow.
Alaska is 10th. People have credit card debt in
What?
Alaska. Come on, just go
They just got
outside. What are you
the
buying?
Alaska Airlines card. That's the only card they have.
Yeah, they just bought a couple flights on it.
Yeah.
That's kind of crazy. Massachusetts, that makes sense. Maryland, Hawaii. Yeah, it's their top 10. Interesting.
Yeah, that's super interesting.
It's too much debt.
Yeah. I guess on the flip side of the debt portion of this, there's obviously a side of the credit card game that is super beneficial.
Yep.
I think there are plenty of benefits to getting a credit card. Neither of us would have a channel about credit cards or finance in general if we didn't think that.
That's true.
So I guess what are some of your, biggest benefits of using them, you think? Like what's the most value you've gotten from them? I can talk about mine too.
So by far, the most value that I've gotten is not from cash back. It's not from travel points, not even close. It's my 800 plus credit score. That is by far the best benefit. That helped me get a 2.8 interest rate on my mortgage that I'm 3 years into now. Had my interest rate been even 2% higher, I would be spending thousands of dollars extra to own my house every single year, and all that money would just be going to the bank. But having a solid, really high credit score has saved me so much money on my mortgage. And I think that is absolutely the biggest benefit of having them.
Oh.
And getting a lot of them early on and letting those accounts age, that helped the score immensely. So I think that is by far the biggest benefit. And obviously the secondary benefits are going to be the welcome offers, the free travel, haven't paid for a flight in years, that type of stuff. But I think a lot of people underestimate how amazing it is to have a really good credit score. It helps your life a lot. It makes everything in your life a lot easier and a lot cheaper.
Yeah. That's super interesting too. Because if you were even to calculate the monetary value of that, I'm sure it would blow a lot of your actual rewards you've gotten from the credit card game out of the water.
I would say over at least the span of the entire loan, it will by a mile, because it's 30-year mortgage. I'm not going to pay it off early because the interest rate is just free money. It's so low. And I talk about paying off debt, but that's one debt. Like 2.8 on a mortgage, I'm not going to prioritize paying that off. No way.
Yeah.
But yeah, over the time, like the 30 years at that 2.8, I'm not sure what the interest is going to come out to, but yeah, even being a percentage or two higher would have added thousands of dollars to that.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's funny too, because I think we so easily, like you said, kind of forget about like the basics of the credit card game, because I know
that's
for
the
me
whole
too.
Point. That's really the whole point.
Exactly.
In the grand scheme.
Yeah. I mean, it's funny too, because for me personally, I've went through a similar situation where since I had such a good credit score for my age, this was for actually a car loan, which I know obviously you're not a huge fan of, but I was able to cut the like average interest rate that was going at the time by like more than half because of just my credit score, which I would not have had without credit cards. So that's where I see the power of credit cards compared to even like other loans. I know you could, there's other ways to build credit, but for me, it's basically all been done by credit cards because I'm, younger to the point where I don't have a mortgage. I don't have other loans. Like this auto loan's like really my first loan aside from credit cards. So yeah, it's such a powerful tool. But
what's the if you don't care if I ask, what's the interest rate on your auto loan?
Well, it's still not good. It's in the 4s, but I got this like this year when it was like the average for even a used car was like 9%.
They've been going up. Yeah.
So I got it for like in the 4s when it was. They told me because I got a used car from
low inflation.
Yeah, I got it from a used car dealership, and whenever I was talking to my girlfriend's dad, who like buys and sells cars, his buddies at other dealerships said he'd be lucky to get less than a 9% interest rate. And I was like, Jesus Christ. Like, cause that's what other people are paying.
A 9% interest rate on your car. I get it. You have to have one. And if you don't have any money, I don't know, man. I don't know.
It's a lot of money. But yeah, this is just, obviously a taste of what benefits I can't have with a high credit score, especially at my age, because I know that I have friends that are getting cars. I mean, yeah, I have a lot of people close to me that have gotten cars recently where they're paying almost double what I'm paying for a car that they probably can't afford in the first place. So
it all boils back down to overspending. People overspend. It's not just credit cards. It's anything that you can get your hands on early. Like you can get a car, even though you don't have any money, you can get it as long as you sign on the dotted line that you are willing to make those payments for the next 60 months or 72 months. That's really the biggest issue. It's not just the credit cards. It's the fact that it's too easy to get access to debt. It's so easy. Yeah. You can get yourself in $500,000 of debt in like one day. Go buy a house that you can't afford, and then go buy a car, and then your life is messed up.
Yeah, that's so crazy. I'm really glad that you brought up in our first episode and what we've been talking about here, that I think the mindset of a lot of Americans is that, I mean, probably including myself in some regard, that I think that my future is going to be so much better than my present, like my future financial situation or, whatever you want to, throw in that. When in reality, it's like, I think we very much overestimate that.
And you have no clue what's going to happen. You literally have no idea. Like, we're YouTubers. What if YouTube ad rates just get demolished for some reason? And that's not really the main way that YouTubers make money anymore. That's a realistic thought. That's why I'm very negative debt. I want the lowest amount of overhead in my life. I want, if I needed to live off of $1,500 a month, I could, no problem.
Yeah. But yeah, exactly.
I was like, I'm not overly optimistic. I feel like I do have a slightly pessimistic view on life, and I think that's helped me in a way. I'm not like super negative. I don't think like the world's going to end tomorrow, but I think that, money that I'm making today, I might not make tomorrow. I have no clue. It's like tomorrow I'm going to wake up ready to work, and hopefully things continue to go. As long as I work hard, things will continue to go as they're going, but I'm more than prepared for it to not go that well.
Yeah. It's kind of the beauty and the curse of, or at least what I found of now doing YouTube full time for a few months now, is that it is so completely dependent on me, like actually working for my money rather than just showing up and clocking in, clocking out.
Yep.
And in reality, I think I always thought of YouTube as being so much just like less stable than a real job is. And I don't know, this is kind of a completely different topic, but I also feel like in that same way, we don't know what's going to happen in our future with our actual jobs that we think are so, secure.
Exactly. Yep.
Like what if something like, 2020 happens again? You're like, well, shoot, now I'm out of a job and I have no other skills. Like
businesses go out of business all the time. Businesses go bankrupt. There's owners of businesses who don't spend money well. There's bad investments being made, and businesses go, you were an engineer, like I don't know what company you worked for, obviously, but what if that engineering firm went out of business and you're out of a job, and hey, here's your severance pay, you get paid for 3 months and that's it, get out, clean out your desk. That happens all the time. It's not like, oh, that'll never happen to me. Like it absolutely might.
Yeah. What do you think then people do in that situation? I want to tie it back to the credit conversation, because I feel like, especially during everything that happened in 2020, that's a lot of people kind of just went to credit cards or other types of loans to fund their life. So I guess, what do you think the solution is to that?
It's not getting yourself in that situation in the first place to where your overhead is so high where if any emergency happened, you were screwed. And obviously you can say just open up an emergency fund and have enough money in there, but it's more than that. It's getting your spending under control. It's not leveraging so much debt. I don't think that is a good idea. Like having debt, a bunch of debt at low interest rates, it's still debt. Like if you have a car loan at a low interest rate, student loan at low interest rates, business loan at low interest rates, your mortgage at a low interest rate, you still have a lot of debt from what I just heard. So it's making sure that today, when things are not going poorly, when things are going well, that you're getting your debt under control, getting it to a point where you could live off of very low income. Like if I needed to work for $12 an hour, 40 hours a week, I could do that and still make enough money to pay for the life that I'm currently living. I would hopefully never have to do that, but I could.
Yeah.
I could live off of $12 an hour, which is kind of crazy when you think about it, because
Mm-hmm.
my life, I don't have a lot of overhead. It's literally just my mortgage is my only debt.
Yeah.
So,
I guess the biggest factor I think in that equation is honestly where you live. Probably it's a massive
it does
factor
matter.
in it. I mean,
Yes.
there are consumer debts that we're talking about, like credit cards, like that. I think obviously this goes back to the earlier conversation of if you already are going to get yourself in credit card debt, don't get them. So you're never put in that situation.
Mm-hmm.
But there are plenty of debts that people actually have to utilize, like a mortgage, for example. A car loan, that's a bit of a toss up there, I guess. But for example, a mortgage where you're living in a super high cost of living area, I mean, yeah, if you have to just pick up and move, that can be a massive thing for people. So
Yeah, I will say absolutely. I mean, I do have things I would say a little bit easier living in Lexington, Kentucky. I mean, absolutely, the cost of living is substantially lower here than in other places. And I will also tie it back to the YouTube thing. That's why YouTube's so cool. My ad rates aren't based off of where I live. You know, if I lived in Austin, I would make the same amount. You know, which is cool. Like, that's why I think that kind of like a lower cost of living area does have a lot of advantages.
yeah,
It's just I'm not in like rural America. Like, I'm in a city with like 350,000 people. It's just not a major metropolitan hub.
yeah, super interesting because I don't know. I think that thinking myself personally, I'm going to be going through like a few years of figuring out where I want to like completely settle down, or not maybe completely, but for the foreseeable future, like get my own house and stuff like that. And that's a serious consideration that I don't think a lot of people my age would take into account. The fact that like, I don't know, a lot of people just want to live in a really cool area because they're young and they want to have fun and like be close to it. But
I get that side of it too.
There's definitely that side of it, but also like if you get yourself in over your head whenever you're in your 20s, your late 20s even, that could be something that's pretty dangerous through the rest of your life if you just keep up that same habit. So
yeah, if you move to, you grow up in a place like where I grew up, and then you move to somewhere like a lot of people I know move to Chicago and move to Nashville. That's like people go to those two places all the time. They have to make double the amount of money that I need to make to sustain the same life. Like when they go to Chicago, they need to be making at least $200,000 a year to really maintain a moderately decent life. I think at least, to be able to buy a place, buy a condo, buy a house if you want to live in the suburbs. Most of them don't. They live downtown and stuff. So if you want to buy a condo, be able to go out to eat a lot, be able to go to places, go to the Bears games, all those things, it's so expensive. Whereas for me and back in Lexington, it's really just not. It makes it very low stress, which I'm a fan of.
Yeah. I feel like the environment you live in has a massive impact on how much money you spend, even if aside from the cost of living. It's just like you probably don't feel as much pressure to do. Yeah. You probably don't feel as much pressure to spend money compared to, whenever I am in like downtown Austin, I have people all the time that want to go do something and it all costs money. Nothing's free. So
no,
I don't know. I am about to be moving back out to my parents' place for a while, which is outside of Austin. And I'm kind of wondering how my expenses will change. Obviously I have no rent, which is going to be huge for a while.
That's sweet. I would assume your expenses are going to go way down. That'd be my guess.
Yeah. I wonder how the entertainment, like food category goes down too, though. I think that's gonna be pretty interesting. Cause I'm even
do you
like
spend a lot? Do you go out to like bars and stuff like that? Is that something you spend a lot of money on?
No, luckily I don't. I'm not like a massive drinker, like partier. I don't really go out too much unless it's like a birthday maybe or something.
Yeah.
So yeah, really honestly, my entertainment budget's already so low. I'm pretty frugal as is, but I also don't say no to things like strictly because of money.
No, you don't want to live like that. No. Yeah. Unless you're in debt. And if you are in debt, you should. But if you're not, you should say yes to some things like that. It's always good to socialize.
Yeah, but if you are in debt, get those cash envelopes out.
If I'm in debt, like that's the thing. Like most of these people who are in debt, they don't change their lives.
Mm-hmm.
They still continue to go out to eat. They still continue to go to concerts. They're going to Taylor Swift. Okay, Taylor Swift is coming to Paycor Stadium in Cincinnati. I got friends going. I know people going. Dude, they're spending like $700 on a ticket to go see Taylor Swift.
At least, probably, yeah.
That is nuts. And I know for a fact that they like aren't in great financial situations.
Yeah.
And you're spending $700 to go watch Taylor Swift sing for a few hours. That to me is so stupid. I hate that. I get it. It's going to be fun. It's going to be a good memory. And then you're going to wake up on Sunday and you're going to have a lot less money. And you're going to have to go back to work on Monday. And then the cycle repeats itself.
Yeah, it's super interesting because whenever you said that, it also brought to mind we talked about this, I think maybe last episode or maybe in the first one, where you interviewed somebody or talked to somebody on your channel who got themselves into credit card debt because of like travel, right? That's not out of context.
Yeah, he had like he opened up the Discover It card just for his vacation, and he spent, I don't know, $3,000 or $2,500 or something on it, and then he was just making monthly payments on that because it was a 0 APR deal.
Oh, okay.
That was his thing.
I guess, yeah, on that same topic though, the idea of funding certain things with debt that are so temporary, I think is scarier to me. Like, for example, if you are like with a car, for example, I mean, this is a bit of a stretch compared to a Taylor Swift concert, but at least you're buying something that you could resell for some money if you absolutely had to.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. You could sell your car tomorrow and get totally out of your debt, and you'd be out of debt. You wouldn't have a car, but you wouldn't have that debt. Yeah,
you can't get experiences back. And I am obviously a big fan of using credit cards to fund travel expenses, but on the side of I'm not paying money for it. I'm using points for it.
Yeah, you cash out your points or you redeem your points for those expenses instead of spending on the credit card and then making payments back to the credit card over time incrementally to pay for your experience. Opposite end of the spectrum.
Right. Yeah, I don't know. I just thought that was kind of an interesting thought too that I hadn't really sat down.
Yeah, I think like for a vacation, I think it does make a lot of sense. Again, if you are like a good credit card responsible user, like if you know for a fact you're going to the Bahamas or whatever, you're going to spend a few grand on the trip. Opening up a credit card and strictly using that card for the trip does make a lot of sense. But you obviously have the cash on the side ready to pay off the card in full when you get back home. Yeah. And you just were able to use that card to maybe hit a welcome offer. You know, that's a big discount for your trip, earn some points back from the trip, and also just kind of monitor your spend better.
Yeah.
I do use hard when I go on vacation. I'm spending on a bunch of different cards. When I do go on trips, I actually just break it down into like one card.
Yeah.
I think it's a lot easier. Like, I'll just use my gold card or something like that when I go on a trip. So I know exactly what I spend on my trip.
Right. And bringing a Visa in case Amex doesn't get accepted, depending on where you're
always in the wallet, just in case.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I think, the biggest perk too is like if you can use it responsibly, that if you're hitting a welcome bonus, you're also earning points to fund a future vacation, which, like I said, I am a fan of because people do need to experience things. I believe that, but not at the cost of your financial situation. So
yeah, like if I wanted to go to the Taylor Swift concert, I mean, I guess I could have bought tickets. I don't want to go to that.
Out some points.
Yeah, I mean, it would have been okay. It's not a big deal. But if you're a person who's got a $7,000 balance on your credit cards and you're going to Taylor Swift, come on.
Yeah, you need to think about your priorities.
You gotta get it straightened out. Taylor Swift is going to continue to tour. She's going to be back next year, and the year after that, she's going to make a new album. You can go to the next one. In a year or two, you actually have your finances in order.
And she sounds pretty good on headphones too.
Yeah, you can stream it, Spotify.
Yeah, I know it's not the same, but
Apple Music. Yeah, I like concerts. I like. Yeah, I would go to that. One concert I would want to go to is Morgan Wallen. I would love to see him live.
Yeah,
I would pay good money for that.
I haven't been to many like massive artist concerts.
Yeah, me neither. Honestly, like it's not a big thing that I do, but I would spend money on that.
Yeah, that'd be fun. If he's ever in a mutual area, we should go together. Maybe I'll come up to Kentucky if he's ever around.
I know this is random. I'll bring it up. So Texas is moving into the SEC, right?
Yeah.
And you're a Texas grad. I'm a UK guy. Next year, 2024 fall, UK goes to Austin. UK has to go to Austin to play a football game. They haven't released the date yet, but I would go to that.
Yeah, that'd be sweet. I mean, I'll be around, I'm sure.
Yeah. I don't know how it's going to go. I don't know, who would win that. Kentucky's been okay as of recently, but Texas coming to the SEC, that's a big step up.
Yeah.
SEC's brutal.
I've started to lower my expectations for Texas over the years. So
yeah. Well, now they're going to get a lot of extra money just from the SEC. It helps immensely. Yep. So super that's random. Fair. Do you want to field the Diamond member questions?
Yeah, I was wondering if you want to talk at all about your most recent video first. I guess we have some time if you want to cover it.
Oh yeah. Let's talk about that really quick. So I recently closed my American Express business gold card and made a video on it, just explaining why. Basically, the card is not great unless you have a business that spends a ton of money. Like, there's no credits on it. It's a $295 annual fee card, and there's no way to offset it unless you spend a ton of money in the Forex categories, which I just don't. I would have to spend $7,500 just to break even in like gas or restaurants, which for my YouTube business, that's silly. I could just put that same exact spend on the Blue Business Plus or my personal gold and profit way more. So I closed it. And I also addressed in that video, in case people were wondering, kind of what effect that would have on my credit score. And the answer is no effect at all, mainly because it's a business credit card and it doesn't report to your personal credits report. But also, I opened up the card just like a year ago. And even if that had reported to my credit report, I've got cards that are like 7, 6, 5 years old. So my credit age is a lot older. So actually closing that newer account would have actually helped it, because my credit age would have jumped up because it would have gotten rid of one of those newer accounts. So I think there's kind of like a misconception with that on what closing credit cards can do to your credit. Have you ever closed a card, and has it ever impacted your score positively or negatively?
No, it's interesting. I actually haven't closed any credit cards yet. I've been really cognizant of like getting cards I don't think I will cancel, because I'm still well, I mean, I guess I have like 9 credit cards now, so it's not a small amount, but
it's getting up there.
Yeah, it's getting up there. I think by the end of next year I'll have definitely all the cards I'll probably ever need, but I'll probably keep going for them,
sure,
of course, for the welcome bonuses and stuff. But
yeah, that's what you're going to get to. You're getting close to that stage where you've got all your bases covered. What else do you need? And then it's bonus hunting.
Yeah, I guess on the topic of what it would do, though, I've done a lot of research on it, because first of all, I get asked a lot about it in my comments, but also I've just been curious. And to my understanding too, as long as that card was, I think you mentioned in your video to make sure you leave that card open for a year. First of all, I want to say that, because if not, they could claw back all your points. They could do a bunch of stuff to you if you close it early. So don't do that. But after you've left it open for a year, even if it was a personal card and you closed it, if it was in good standing, you made all your payments on time, that should age on your credit report for like 10 years, which is a very beneficial thing, because then it doesn't even hurt your average age of accounts until, I don't think it would hurt it until that into that 10 years. And it adds another credit card that ages with you.
Right.
So I talked about that in my video. I think I talked about it in the video that went live today, about retention offers. But theoretically, within the time that you close that card, those next 10 years, you're going to be adding so many more accounts, credit card accounts, mortgages, blah, 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 to where once it finally does fall off your report, there's going to be no impact at all to your score. Like, it should just fall off and you won't even notice it. And I imagine that's the intent of that rule. Rather, because theoretically, if it was somebody like me, or somebody, let's say, that just got started, they had 3 credit cards, but they started with like the Amex Gold card somehow. So they have an annual fee card they're going to cancel. If they're like 3 years into their credit card journey, 2 years into it, and they cancel that card, it could have a pretty severe impact on them if that wouldn't continue to age. So I think that's a good rule, and something that's made me realize that you shouldn't worry about closing cards as long as it makes sense. But probably always try to downgrade it first, is my opinion.
Right. Yeah. And there, with a business gold card, there's no downgrade path to a no fee card. If there ever is, definitely do that first. Like, if I had the Sapphire Reserve and I didn't want it anymore, I wouldn't close that. I would downgrade to a Freedom Flex or Freedom Unlimited, because those are in the same family. For personal accounts, there's as long as there's that downgrade path to a no fee, it very rarely makes sense to outright close the account altogether.
Right.
Business cards, totally different, not as big of a deal at all, just because they don't report your personal credit report. But yeah, even if it did, I would still have gone ahead and closed the account because I wouldn't have had that no fee downgrade option.
Yeah, it's huge. I think people, when they're early on, need to think about that too. It's like, what could I do with this card if I did want to close it? And the charge cards are the perfect example of ones. Yep. Again, we're talking about the annual fees earlier, but also they have no good downgrade path. So don't get the card unless you think you're actually going to keep it for a while. And I mean, unless it's a business card, of course, like we're talking about here, that's completely different. But yeah.
I think everything to that, I think everything in the finance world and your personal financial world, you need a backup plan. You need a, when it hits the fan plan, you need that. Like for your credit card setup, for your, income, all those things, you need backup plans. What could I do if my income dropped and I needed to get out of these credit cards? What could I do? It's pretty easy. I've got an easy way out of almost all of them. I could get down to paying $0 in annual fees in no time, and it would have very minimal impact on my credit.
Yeah. I think that kind of ties together the whole entire episode here. This like credit or debt conversation is like, you just need to have a plan for everything. And not only that, you should probably have a backup plan.
Absolutely.
Yeah. These tools, like we're talking about, are dangerous if not used correctly. That goes for any debts. That goes for all of personal finance in general. But we like to think, I imagine, that we have a community that is responsible, and we just like to learn how to optimize this stuff with them, compared to, like, sometimes we forget to even talk about the basics because we're already past that to a point. But don't let that go over your head, for sure.
Right. I would say most of the people in our Discord, those tend to be like the very, very analytical people like us. But I would guess maybe our just casual viewers, a lot of them aren't as in tune with this stuff as us. So we should take a little bit of that extra effort in our content to mention, like, those extra 30 seconds of your video, mention, hey, just in case you need to get out of this car down the road, this is how you can do it.
Yeah.
Like, go ahead and adding that in. Our core audience doesn't care, but those fringe viewers, they might. That could actually be super valuable information for them that helps them out a lot down the road.
Yeah, that's such a good point. I always think about it's got to be all or nothing. You make a video only for beginners, or you kind of don't. But you're completely right about the fact that, I mean, I might get a couple hundred comments on a video, but compared to the thousands of people that watch it, there are probably quite a few of those that don't really know how the credit card game works yet. So that's
guaranteed. There's a lot of beginners getting into it and watching your content, especially yours right now, where it's growing so rapidly. Guaranteed there are people brand new to credit watching your content.
Yeah. I try to always put myself in their shoes, because I have so many of my friends that still ask the very basic questions. So, like, while I'm scripting, luckily I have the freedom to be able to script a lot more now that I'm doing it full time, or not, just make sure I hit the right points.
Right.
I remember to say stuff like that.
That's good.
It's, I try to do it every time, but I know I still mess up. So I guess if we could put a general caveat on all of our videos, I wish we could. But
yeah, that's what the description is for.
Right.
I guess I don't have anything for that, but you can throw that in there just in case.
Yeah, exactly.
Please use responsibly.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, I think that's, hopefully we answered most of the FAQs about closing a credit card there. But obviously everybody can leave comments on the YouTube version of this if you're watching, or if you're not, come over and leave a comment. But we do have a couple of questions from our Diamond Status members from the Credit Community Discord, again linked below in the YouTube description. I think all descriptions now, maybe. So I guess we might as well kick it off with one of them. And the first one came from Ninja again, and he was the first question I think we answered last week.
Yeah, too. Ninja back to back.
Yep. So we'll be taking questions every week. This week we actually just used some from last week, but just be sure that if you do want to get your questions answered, that you're part of our Diamond members, and we'll be able to answer you at some point. But what he asked was, what do your partners think about your credit card hobby, and how do they fit into your overall short, medium, and long-term strategy as player twos? Kind of in line with this video a little bit with credit, at least. So what do you
think? basically my wife couldn't care less about the credit card stuff. She's like, whatever you want me to do, I'll just do it. She's like, I don't care. She's like, she doesn't watch my videos. She's like, whatever. It's over her head, not interested. And I think that's actually the most, like, that's an average person. They really just don't care. So basically, I just kind of tell her, like, I'll give her, she's an AU on my gold card and my
Authorized
Unlimited.
user.
Yes, authorized user. Sorry.
Yeah, no, you're good.
And she'll put her restaurant and dining spend on that and grocery spend on that. Because like Amex points, you know how they work. They're only going to pool to the one side. You can't transfer them between player 1 and player 2, which is super frustrating. Whereas with like Chase, you could. But I just keep it as simple as I can for her. She got like the BBP, the Freedom Unlimited in case she needs a Visa, and then the gold. Like those are her 3 cards that she'll carry around. And she's like, whatever you want me to do it. I haven't had her apply for a new card in a long time. A year or 2 ago, she's got actually more personal cards than me. I think she has like 13.
Oh wow.
Her credit score is 800 plus. It's perfect. She actually has a little bit more overall credit limit than me too, which is kind of crazy. She does have an extra card or 2, and she doesn't have as many Amex charge cards as me. But yeah, I just basically kind of let her know what to do and give her the cards to use, and that's it. She's really not in tune with it at all, other than that.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's pretty similar to me, at least in the mindset sense, where, I mean, I don't technically have an official player 2, but my girlfriend, I've tried to get her at least introduced to the credit card game because, again, a lot of my friends haven't even gotten into it yet. Being like that, we're all kind of fresh out of college. They're trying to figure out their finances right now. But she officially got her first credit card a few months ago now. She got the Chase Freedom Unlimited, which she could only get.
Watch that video. That was a good video.
Yeah, it was a fun one. I think I let that one sit on the back burner for like 2 months before I actually edited it, but it ended up being pretty fun. But yeah, so she finally got her first credit card. I haven't added her as an authorized user to any of mine. I mean, I guess mainly because we're not married and stuff, and it could just, I don't want to mess with her credit at all. But she is in the same way. She does not watch my videos. She might have watched the first couple. I don't even think she did. She said she did, but
I think that's common. I don't think that's uncommon.
And as for how I could see her fitting into a player 2 strategy, I mean, part of me is on the fence of like the same side of the fence as you of like, I would like her to apply for cards and we could combine our points and do all this stuff. But in reality, I think that at least I'm so much of a nerd in this game that I could probably make up enough value for both of us.
Easily.
Especially with the YouTube channel. That really helps, obviously, with like referrals and stuff, where I don't need to play the player 2 game as much. But I know like even like Ben Hedges, for example, he still does it like crazy. Like him and his wife are always doing the player 2 game. So,
and same with like Sebi and Mandy, they do it. They do it pretty big. Yeah, I mean, if both partners are in on it, it can be, you're just doubling your potential value.
Yeah, I guess that's true too. Even with the referrals that I get, theoretically, she could also get referrals on her card. So yeah,
she was making content too. There's that thing.
Yeah,
but that's a whole other. I don't think my wife would ever want to do that.
Not for credit, at least. I'll tell you that much.
Yeah, maybe something else, but definitely not that.
But yeah, I think that covers Ninja's question pretty well. Yeah, I think all of us probably have a similar situation with that. If you have a player 2 that's really into it, I mean, that's good for you. But I think most of them are kind of just passive. They just listen to whatever you tell them.
I feel like that's the most common. Yeah. One of the partners super into it. The other one's like, dude, I really just don't care. Tell me when we're going on vacation and let's just go.
Yeah, exactly. Well, thank you for that question, Ninja. The second question came from AMSI. I don't know how you're supposed to say it, AMSI, but so I'm going to go with. And what they asked, they just asked if we had any ideas for side hustles or just some good way to start any kind of like small business. They said it's a very general question, but some insight on it would be nice.
Just straight up side hustle.
Yeah.
I think the easy answer for us is YouTube, but I think there's actually with YouTube, there's easier ways early on to make money than making your own channel. I think using services like Fiverr actually make a lot of sense if you have any technical skills like Photoshop, making banners, making YouTube banners, making thumbnails, things like that. that can be like a side hustle, or like even editing videos. Like if you would learn that skill, it's a skill that you can learn in a weekend easily. And then instead of making your own content, you edit and work on other people's. You could list your services on Fiverr. I've always thought about that, like, because I'm super big into photography and stuff like that, and I've listed photos on Shutterstock. No one ever downloads them because I'm not really. If I pushed it more, I might be able to get downloads and stuff like that and make money from that. But not a big return on investment. But if I were just starting out, something that I would try to do is, list my services and maybe edit someone's shorts, reach out to them, edit their content in general. It's a pretty big money maker. A lot of YouTube content creators pay a lot of money for editors. And then even just creating thumbnails, things like that. There's big money to be made from that. And it's something you could do in your bed on your laptop at 2 a.m. in the morning, which is the definition of a side hustle.
Yeah, that's a really good point, because my mind immediately went to things that I've done in the past. One of those being like DoorDash. Like I used to drive for DoorDash sometimes.
Sure.
While I was in college, that's good enough. Mainly because I had the time for it. But whenever you're starting to more trade your time for money, you want to make sure it's worth it, especially if you already have an established career that you're doing. So I think that anything that you can do in the digital space, like you said, with some kind of technical skill is the most ideal. So if you already have something you're passionate about, that's pretty easy, to figure out how you can monetize it. There's so many videos these days telling you what to do.
Right.
I know I watch Joshua Mayo, or at least I used to watch his videos a lot. He has like the most amount of side hustles videos you could ever come up with.
Those got a little old quick, in my opinion.
Yeah, I kind of graduated, I guess, from it a little bit, because I was like, well, I found my side hustle, I'm good. And now it's
this
my
one
full
works.
hustle.
Exactly.
But yeah, I mean, like if you're in college or something and you have just a ton of extra time, there are so many ways you could just spend your evenings or whatever. But making it flexible, I think, is the biggest thing for a side hustle.
That's for me. Like there's part-time jobs you can get, but I don't think that makes a lot of sense. It needs to be something that you can do on your own time, because a side hustle is not your main job, at least not yet. Right? It's something you already have your schedule full. You already have a 40-hour week job, so you need to be able to do something in your free time that continues to earn you money. So at something that you're already at your house for makes the most sense to me. Something that you can just do on your laptop at anywhere in the world. That is the best type of a side hustle. You don't have to physically be anywhere. You need access to the internet and you need a capable computer. That's it. That's a good side hustle.
Yeah, I completely agree. I guess that's a perfect segue to, talking about YouTube as a side hustle, to direct you all to go watch last week's episode where we talked about that for like an hour. Well, not that just only, but we talked about that as our main topic for the video. And if you've been at all interested in starting your own channel of any kind, I think that's very valuable or at least a place to start researching it. So,
talk about a lot of the pros and how you can get started and why you should get started, why it's such an amazing tool and something that you should start at least consider doing.
Yeah, exactly right. You got anything else today, Mark?
Nothing video related, but I will say this is kind of interesting, random in my life. So the Canadian wildfires, all that smoke has spread down to Kentucky.
Really?
Which is unbelievable. Yeah, our air quality is terrible right now. It's on like that scale, like 0 to 500. It's over 200. It's insane. Like right when you walk outside, it's just a smoky haze throughout the entire city. And when you're going down into like a little valley when you're driving, it looks like fog, but it's smoke. It's insane. That's from the Canadian wildfires all the way down to Kentucky. I remember a few weeks ago, everyone was talking about it in New York, how bad it was. It's like, man, that sucks. But now a few weeks later, it's made its way down to Kentucky. That is unbelievable.
I thought it would disperse by now. It might be coming to Texas.
Me too. I thought I noticed it yesterday, and I saw something on the news. Our air quality was like 70, which is, it's fine. No one really noticed it. It kind of just looked a little like a filter on life. But today, it was awful. I mean, it's really actually pretty bad. Like anybody who has like asthma, they would be like needing their inhalers and stuff. It's kind of insane. I can't even imagine what it'd be like further up north if it's pretty bad all the way down in Kentucky. It's kind of weird.
Yeah, that's crazy. I wonder, how much of the states are being affected by that. I'm actually heading. Can I say this now? Yeah, I think I can say this now. I'm heading up to, I'll just say North Carolina this upcoming weekend.
There you go.
And I wonder if it'll be. I mean, I guess that's a little bit. I don't know. It should be fun no matter what. But yeah, I'm excited to. I guess that's my off-topic thing too. Is I'll be gone for a few days.
You going for fun? I think you mentioned this last week.
Yeah, I got a buddy that we're just gonna be like on the lake and stuff. I think most of the time for 4th of July and stuff.
So that's gonna be fun. I don't have any big 4th of July plans. Nothing out of the usual.
Yeah, I guess this will come out the day before 4th of July. So happy 4th to everybody.
Yeah, this will come out on the 3rd.
Yep. But yeah, should be a fun weekend. Hopefully this will be my last weekend of running around too much, and I'll be getting back on a comfortable schedule, which these last few weeks have not been.
That is probably stressful for you. You know, you're like obviously running the YouTube business, and it seems like it's a lot of free time, but it's not. It's really just not for you what you're doing. And then traveling on the weekends, adding to the stress.
Yeah, I wish I had some more airport lounge access and I could jump around to a few, but in Austin, we don't even have lounges, which is a whole conversation I could have about airport lounge access.
There's no lounges at all in Austin?
I think there's like 2. There's a Delta Sky Club
and Dallas. They're all in Dallas.
Yeah, we have one Delta Sky Club that's actually pretty nice, I think. And then they actually added the Chase Sapphire Terrace Lounge is the only one is in Austin. But I don't have the reserve, so I can't get in. I only have the preferred. So
don't you just need priority pass to get in? Oh, I guess do you have
that's for that I think you're talking about the
Sapphire Club.
Yeah, it's a different one.
Okay.
The Terrace Lounge you have to have the reserve only, I think.
That's interesting. That's interesting.
I could be wrong. Maybe I'll go try it tomorrow if I get there early enough cuz I'm leaving.
Yeah, just see if you have priority pass cuz I know that can get you in the Sapphire Lounge by the club. Because that's part of priority pass, but I don't know about the Terrace. I've not really heard a lot about that.
Yeah, I think it's a one-off, but maybe I'll try it out. Take some pictures, if anything, from the outside.
It's not like I can say anything. In Lexington, we don't have lounges. It's a regional airport. We fly to Atlanta, and there's our hub.
Yeah, I was surprised. I was just in Atlanta a couple weeks ago with the airport. Well, I guess in the city, but they only had like 1 or 2 priority pass lounge. I think they only had 1 priority pass lounge. No, I don't even think they had one. I think it was like
that sounds right.
It was like just a restaurant that you could go into with the priority pass card, but like it wasn't even a lounge.
Who are you flying with?
I wasn't flying with anybody with status. I was Southwest.
Oh, you were Southwest. Okay, because we always fly Delta just because it's so easy. Because Delta flies out of Lexington every morning to Atlanta at 6 a.m. So we can get to Atlanta at 7:30 and then fly anywhere. But they've got like 13 Delta Sky Clubs. I mean, Delta.
Right. I don't have access to those yet.
That's their hub in Atlanta. So we're kind of Delta loyalists in that way. And there's supposed to be a Centurion Lounge coming, but it's not opened yet. Yeah.
If I had the Platinum card, I would have at least tried some places while we were there, but I only have the only lounge access I have is the Venture X, which gives me priority pass, which I guess is a lot better overseas than here, but I still haven't even been into a lounge yet. So one day.
I go to the Delta Sky Clubs a lot. They're pretty nice. It was really crowded last time that I went, but I was around like Christmas and all that stuff. That was super busy time. I haven't gone anywhere this year. Literally nothing vacation wise. It is time. Got something coming up, but not till December. Maybe gonna add a trip. I just actually got another referral on my Marriott Boundless card. Now all of a sudden I have like the 3 free nights, and I have like 220,000 Marriott points.
Wow!
So I could get something really sweet. I don't know what to do yet though.
Yeah,
still trying to decide.
Yeah,
I could get it could get 7 or 8 nights in somewhere pretty sick. But I want to do something that I haven't done before. I don't know what to do though. If you all have an idea, let me know down in the comment section.
Yeah,
good point. Because I have way more points than I thought I would. I've gotten 3 referrals on it. That's 120,000 points.
Jeez.
So I'm sitting at 220 plus the 3 free credits, the 3 free night credits worth 50K each. So
yeah, you might have to leave that one in the Discord too. See what people think.
Yeah,
throw it in the premium lounge.
get some good ideas from that.
Yeah. I think that's all I got for today.
That's it. That's all I got. Looks our run time a little bit over an hour. It seems to be our average time. We're still figuring all this out, how everything flows.
Exactly. Hour seems pretty safe.
Yep. If you guys have any feedback or any topics that you would like us to discuss, definitely let us know in the comment section if you're watching on YouTube, or if you're on the Discord, let us know there too. We're always thinking of things to talk about. So if you not necessarily just like a question, but maybe a video topic in general, if you want us to dive into, let us know.
Yeah, 100%. But that being said, Mark, it's been a lot of fun once again.
Always a pleasure.
Yep. Everybody, thanks for watching, and we'll catch you again next week.